So, Casterly Rock, I'm asking your advice.
We have enough men?
If Walder Frey cooperates.
If Walder Frey cooperates.
The sad irony of this scene is that it really is about Robb putting the past behind him and about taking the horrible situation with his mother, freeing Jaime, and with having to execute Lord Karstark against his mother's advice, and the situation with Winterfell more than anything, and his brothers and Theon and all of these things, and somehow getting beyond them without forgetting them and moving on to the next chapter and moving on to the task at hand, which is to defeat the Lannisters, to take Casterly Rock, and to force them to a truce.
I think in his mind, they both made political mistakes, even though he's so glad he married Talisa and loves her so much. Certainly, politically, that was a bad move, and certainly in his mind, releasing Jaime was a terrible move, but now it's time to move on because they really only have each other. You know, these are the only two Starks together other than Bran and Rickon, and he needs his mom's counsel at this moment, and he needs his allies more than ever, and he's got no stronger ally than his mother. And I think a part of him is thinking, well, maybe this is a pretty audacious plan, and so if she says this is lunacy, then maybe it is lunacy. But when she tells him,
show them how it feels to lose what they love.
He feels validated in this decision, and he feels like this is the correct way forward.
Don't worry, they're still there.
I know they're still there.
You check every 5 minutes like you're afraid they're gonna move.
I'm not afraid.
Of course you are. You're almost there. And you're afraid you won't make it. The closer you get, the worse the fear gets.
He understands that she's afraid, and he knows why she's afraid, and he's right. I mean, she's gone through such hell right from the moment where she saw her father beheaded up until this moment. And she's gone through things that no young person or anybody should ever have to go through, and finally the light is at the end of the tunnel or across the river, as the case may be, and she feels like she's finally can dare to hope for something good to happen to her again. And this is somebody who's gotten so hardened and all but lost any hope that something good can happen to her. She's very wary of letting herself feel too much because feeling too much only leads to pain in her experience.
And she doesn't even want to really believe it yet because it just seems so unlikely that something good could possibly happen to her, because it's been so long since anything good has happened to her. But then he takes her to the outskirts of the Twins, and she sees the Stark banners waving in the distance, and she knows he's telling the truth. I mean, the Stark army is right there. And then she gets even closer. She gets inside the walls of the Twins, and she sees Stark men. You know, those are her guys. And she hears those northern accents, you know, that she hasn't heard in a long time. And she's within, 10 yards of safety. And then it all goes horribly wrong.
Too late.
Your Grace, I feel I've been remiss in my duties. My king has married, and I owe my new queen a wedding gift.
I'd say it's clearly one of the more important events in the entire series. Everything changes after this point. It's kind of the end of the Innocents. You know, it's Ned's death was so pivotal at the end of season 1, and everything changed from that point. And even though there have been many big moments since then, there's nothing that compares to the Red Wedding. So it's all different after this.
This was an event that was not only from the books, but it was one of the primary reasons that we wanted to make this show. We thought that this was getting to the Red Wedding for us was such a major milestone and such a source of trepidation because, yeah, it's a shocking scene and a shocking moment, and it's also completely inevitable in hindsight, which I think is one of the things we loved so much about it from the beginning, and one of the things that makes for so much great drama. I mean, so much great drama and so much great storytelling is completely surprising when it hits you, and then if you go back and you read it again, you go back and you watch it again, you are asking yourself the question, how could I have missed that this thing was coming?
You know, all the clues are there, and certainly you knew that Rob was heading into a dangerous situation, but somehow your guard drops and it looks like, hey, this might have a happy ending. And of course it all starts to change when you hear the Rains of Castamere playing and you think that's not right. And then it all takes a very dark turn, and doesn't end quickly. It's not all over in a hail of crossbow quarrels. It actually lingers for an uncomfortably long period of time. I mean, that last shot of Catelyn standing there, you're kind of hoping for a cut to black. You just want it to be over because you're watching this woman that you care about so much, and in her absolute, the most horrible possible place, a mother having seen her own son killed before her eyes, and having really nothing left to live for at that moment. You know, believing all her other sons are dead, and presumably her daughters are dead, or at least in the grips of the Lannisters, and it's all over.
At this point, I feel like the world of the show has definitely announced itself as a world where, like in our world, where these horrible things do happen to good people, and the heroes that you want to see come out on top and triumph don't always come out on top and triumph. And I think that it's very much of a piece with the fabric of the show. It's all about the cost of honor and the cost of love. Rob made a choice there, and it's taken a while, but he ends up paying for that choice in the worst possible way in this scene.